Well, Shohei Ohtani is still on the Angels, but I don't think anyone else is. That's supposed to be my theme.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, how would I have a lower third where I claim my name is Sully? I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my fifth full season here as a member of the Locked On Podcast Network. But as you can see, I'm not alone today. By the way, follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. Your pal Sully with Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. I'm not alone because lurking with me, also in the San Gabriel Valley of Los Angeles County, is my good friend and the co-host of the Locked On Angels podcast. It's Jon Frisch. How you doing, buddy?
Sully, I'm so tired, man. I want to watch fun baseball. What's it like? Can somebody tell me what it's like? I'm a baseball fan. I'm an Angels fan. Why was I born with this curse?
I know
of enjoying the Angels.
I know this is unbelievable.
Yeah,
what's been happening, and fans of the show know that you're sick of me saying this, but I said a few weeks ago that the Angels had two choices. They had two choices. That was call up Ohtani's management and say, what will it be?
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us the number and what will it be? And if they said, we want to test free agency, you had to trade him.
Mm.
And they didn't. And to paraphrase Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, and now their failure is complete. They acted like a desperate, jilted lover saying, oh, no, we'll make everything okay. No, I'll buy you a Giolito. I'll buy you a Mike Moustakas. They went for it, and they did the worst possible thing, which was they went for it. And traded away a young catcher to the Chicago White Sox. What was his name again?
You tell me his name. If it's so concerning that the Angels traded away this guy, you got to tell me his name. I'll tell you his name. It's Edgar Carroll. That's my thing, Sully. I know. Like we can rip apart what the Angels did. I'm glad that they went for it. I'm glad that they went all in, and I understand they gave up pieces, but everybody panicking about the Angels' future and everything. Nobody knew who those guys were before August. That nobody knows who Edgar Carroll is. I knew who he was.
That's not the point. That's not the point. They knew they had it. Whether or not they went for it isn't the point. The point is they're about to lose a generational talent.
Mm-hmm.
And would it have been ideal to trade him at the trade deadline? Of course not. But it's also not an ideal situation that you couldn't put a winning team around teams that had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout on them.
Look, you don't got to tell me how.
I know the choir right now I'm currently preaching to.
But here's the thing: like, yes, is the ideal time to trade him a year and a half ago? Of course. But if you have one more shot with Ohtani on your team in the last year of his contract,
but
I say you go for it.
Yeah, but you didn't.
But then,
and look, you didn't this year.
Oh, I know you didn't make it.
And I'm sorry, but you can't look me in the eye and say that you're surprised that you have this scramble to get the third wild card spot. And of course, the American League is wide open. And if they had really made a terrific run, that's fine. But you also had a chance, if you traded Ohtani, to get a couple of pieces back, to get something from him. You're going to get nothing from him.
I get it. I mean, it's
and
prospects that could have come our way, but they're prospects. That's exactly what they are. And the Angels have no prospects, so maybe I'm speaking from a place of I don't know what good prospects are like unless their names are are Mike Trout and Jared Weaver.
Well, but what they have now is nothing.
Right.
He's gone.
Right.
I have a better chance of playing for the Angels next year than Shohei Ohtani. He has a better chance of signing with the Rays for a 12-year deal than he does with the Angels, and he's not signing with the
Rays. But here's my thing. I look at where they were at the deadline, 3.5 out of a wild card spot, pushing all their chips in. They need bullpen. They go out and get 2 bullpen pieces. They need some position players because they've been racked with injuries. I think it was 18 of the 26-man roster to start the season are on the IL at some point during the season. And I look at, they needed position players. They went out and got them in Grichuk and Cron. They needed a starter. They went out and got Giolito. I can't blame Perry Manassian for plugging the holes that they had to compensate for what they were missing. I mean, Taylor Ward gets hit in the face. Who knew that guy was going to be the contributor that he was through July? Because Taylor Ward, he's just a guy, but he was having a hot July. Here's what I'm trying to say. I think Perry Manassian did what he was supposed to do as a GM, to go out and get the pieces to fill in. I mean, really, it goes back to, and this kind of goes back to what's going on today. It's all Artie Moreno. It's all John Carpino. They don't want a baseball team. They want a money-making business, and they have their money-making business, but they don't give their guys the agency to be baseball people, to make baseball decisions. So, I mean, you look at the Angels and what they've done the last 12 years with Pujols and Hamilton and Rendon. Like, you can't tell me you didn't see this coming with the fact that they were going to keep Ohtani around and try to go for it. And so I guess as Angel fans, it was like, well, if this is what they're going to do, then like, we're along for this is fun. Like, let's go for it. And then those guys, everybody came over and the entire team crapped the bed at the end of the day.
Well, welcome to Locked On Stockholm Syndrome. We're here with Jon Frisch from Locked On Angels. For the people who maybe were slumbering or doing something other than following the Angels news, why don't we tell people? I know. But for those of you who don't know, John, why don't you tell everyone what happened with the Angels and the waiver wire today?
Yes. Not every single one, but it's about 6 players who have expiring contracts have been put on the waiver wire by the Angels. Now, it's not like the old days where if somebody makes a claim, you can make a deal with them. It's just a straight pickup. They take on the salary. And so there's no trades here. It's a complete salary dump. And the goal here, Sully, and this is why it's got Artie Moreno's fingerprints all over it, is the fact that they're trying to get back down underneath the luxury tax. They were above the luxury tax for the first time in almost 20 years for about 31 days, and then they lost so many games in August. They went, quick, get back down under there, quick, under sea level. So what they're trying to do is get back under the luxury tax by shedding any one of those contracts. Really will help them get under the luxury tax. I think they're over by about $1.5 million. The idea being, and this is speaking from the Angels' perspective, not my opinion, anybody's opinion, they're trying to get under the tax so that if they go for it again next year, if they go above the tax, they won't get the 2-year in a row penalty that comes with the luxury tax. And it also gives them the second compensatory pick if they give Ohtani the qualifying offer and he turns it down and signs with another team, rather than the 4th round compensatory pick. So they'll get bumped up to the 2nd round rather than the 4th round by getting under the luxury tax. That's what I believe the Angels are trying to do here. I think it's ridiculous. They've obviously thrown in the white flag. I think they've done a huge disservice to their fans, their Angel fans. But that's what they're trying to do, essentially.
Okay, so tell the listeners who are the 5 that are basically been sent out into the ether.
We've got Randal Grichuk, who on the day he found out he was on the waiver wire went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and a home run, so he's auditioning. Hunter Renfroe, Lucas Giolito, Dominic Leone, who's a reliever, and Reynaldo Lopez, who came over with Giolito, who's
What
also
about Matt Moore? Wasn't
Matt
Matt
Moore.
Moore?
Yes,
Yeah,
he's
Matt
a big
Moore's on there as well. Yeah.
If the Rangers don't try to get Matt Moore back, then they
Well,
they don't want to win.
well, hold on a second. Hold on to your butts, as Samuel L. Jackson said in the film Jurassic Park. When we come back from this break, we're going to be talking about how some of these players are going out into the ether right now, and which teams are going to benefit from their position in the standings, because it's like a brand new draft. But first,
Locked On MLB is brought to you by LinkedIn Sales. Look, are you like the Angels and struggling to close deals? Well, you don't have to be like my favorite team and, like Sully said, Stockholm Syndrome. You don't have to be like me, okay? You actually can get connected with LinkedIn Sales. Cold outreach is hard, and it feels like you're wasting your time, both the buyer and the seller at every single stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. It's like baseball analytics for sales in business. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales, and LinkedIn Sales has built the first ever deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a free 60-day trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started today.
hey, we're doing a crossover as Anaheim Burns and Artie Moreno fiddles on a bunch of players who, yes, I mean, Giolito's been bad with his 1 month in Anaheim, but he's still a major league pitcher.
Yes.
Matt Moore's still a major league pitcher. Lopez is still a major league pitcher. Grichuk is still a major league hitter. Renfroe is a major league hitter. And I've been preaching this whole time that if you have a hole and you can fill it in with a major leaguer, and you're basically asking them, give me 1 good month in the regular season,
right,
and a couple of just give me basically 6 or 7 decent weeks. If you have a hole and you fill in a major leaguer there, that's what I call Eddie Rosario syndrome. That the Braves had holes. They couldn't, you're not going to replace Ronald Acuna Jr., but give me a major leaguer in there. And they did exactly that with Rosario and with Jorge Soler.
Give me 4 like the Braves did.
Exactly. And Jock Peterson, remember that whole outfield they had there was basically reassembled at the last minute with yarn. Now, there are teams right now on the fringe of the postseason now who could really benefit. Now, you'd mentioned the Rangers, but teams with really great records, the top teams, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Baltimore, the Rays, these teams are not going to benefit from these dumps, because what happens when it's a waiver situation, it's basically from the first team that would have a shot at these players would be the worst team in baseball. Now, it would not behoove teams like the Oakland A's, the Colorado Rockies, the Kansas City Royals, Chicago White Sox, the New York Yankees, who, by the way, also threw Josh Donaldson into onto the heap. They just put him on waivers, thus making the whole trading away Gio Urshela, bringing in Josh Donaldson and all of his salary in lieu of signing a shortstop like, I don't know, Corey Seager,
right?
Who I was screaming for them to sign.
Brian Cashman was right. He said Gio Urshela is not Josh Donaldson. That's factually correct.
That is factually correct. Exactly. But who really benefits from this are the teams that, as I said, are in contention.
Yeah.
A lot of them have holes. And if you're a team like the Marlins, would probably of the contending teams, unless the Padres still think they're in it.
Right.
If the Padres still have lost their mind, they may take a stab at someone. But
I've got a good list.
let's say you're the Marlins. I
Yeah.
think the Marlins, the Reds, the Giants, the Red Sox, Arizona, Minnesota, who, some of these teams could use a bat. A lot of
Mhm.
these teams could use a starting pitcher. I mean, a team like Minnesota could put themselves in a position where they say, hey, we could use Lucas Giolito.
Mhm.
We will take Lucas Giolito. Or some like the Marlins could probably use another major league bat in that lineup. Well, Hunter Renfroe.
Mhm.
Just
Grichuk?
or Grichuk is the same thing. The San Francisco could use, or the Red Sox right now would be a team that would be able to pick. They're in desperate need of bullpen help. Matt Moore, who again, I'm not saying he's the second he's not like Billy Wagner,
Yeah.
but
He's been a great setup guy.
He's a major league pitcher.
Yeah.
And if you look up and say, wow, we can just they would have to pay the rest of their salary, but that's just all these players' contracts are going to expire at the end of the year.
Right.
And the thing is that when you pick someone, you then go back to the back of the line. So it's not like Miami can say, we're going to take Giolito and Grichuk. And it can't be supermarket sweep,
right.
But, when you take a look at specifically Miami, Minnesota, San Francisco, Boston, and Arizona, those 5 teams, if you think there are 5 actual major leaguers who are available, those 5 teams can, with a month to go, say, wow, we can actually fill a hole post-trade deadline.
Absolutely. Just to break down who the Angels put out there, I mean, like I was saying, Matt Moore, he's been a terrific setup guy this season, even better than last year with the Rangers. If you need somebody who's a flamethrower, that's Reynaldo Lopez. He's throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs in there. Dominic Leone can, eat you some innings and kind of get you to the 8th or the 9th.
He's a pitcher. He's a major league pitcher. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. He's a living, breathing person. Randal Grichuk has some great lefty splits. Obviously, he didn't do much for us with the Angels, and also hits with runners in scoring position. Again, that's why we traded for him. We needed somebody who could hit lefties and drive in runners with scoring position. Didn't do that with us. So if somebody wants to take a risk on him, I think it might be worth it. Hunter Renfroe, surprisingly, has not been the guy that the Angels needed him to be this season. But he's been terrible with runners in scoring position.
Yes, but he is also someone who has postseason experience and has a lot of pop in his bat. And if he wakes up and he finds, wow, I'm on. If he gets picked up by Miami or San Francisco,
out of Anaheim, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
just sort of dust himself. If he dusts himself off, he's playing in Miami. I'm just picking them because you're in a lineup with Luis Arraez. You're in a lineup with Jorge Soler. You have a couple other good solid hitters in that lineup, and you're like a game or so out of a playoff spot. Or Minnesota, or he goes to Minnesota and he wakes up and says, I'm in first place.
Right. Well, it's, you and I were joking before we started about Alex Cobb, and I know you're going to talk about it later, throwing a near no-hitter. And the Angels had him in 2021. He wouldn't have done that with the Angels in 2023 because it's the Angels. Everybody who comes here, their soul is sucked out of them. I don't know if it's the locker room. I don't know if it's management. I mean, I know the answers, but the fact that
it's management. In case you're wondering, it's management,
right? And they come over to this locker room.
I'm ready to solve this puzzle, Alex. or Pat. I'm sorry, I mixed up my game show.
R.I.P. Alex. But yes, it's
an R.I.P. Bob Barker too.
Yes, 99. Let's go.
I know.
But again, they come over to the Angels and just. It was just a disaster for these guys to come over. So perhaps they get to a winning team or somebody in contention, like you're saying, and then they come back to life. I think they could really benefit from that.
By the way, I think Donaldson is done. I don't think anyone's going to pick him up.
I don't think so.
Carlos Carrasco is another one who got put on waivers by the Mets. And you know what? I'm convinced someone will pick him up just because there's a team that we need another pitcher.
Yeah. Wasn't Harrison Bader
Yes,
Also
that's right. Harrison Bader.
Yeah.
Harrison Bader was, I think that was, I know a couple of people, my dear friend Nicole Kerkolis, who's a wonderful comedian in New York and a rabid Yankee fan. And she was mad because she likes Harrison Bader. And he'll be picked up by someone because he if someone needs a fourth outfielder,
Right.
or, I mean, like there have been a couple of days that the Mariners have been resting Julio Rodriguez. So to be able to rest him and, put in a major league player, for nothing.
Right.
That would probably be a smart thing to do. But man, this is coming, this is being dropped on the 30th of August. I mean, this could be a potential feeding frenzy for those teams. And as I'll little tease for the final segment, I can give you a concrete example where a last minute waiver pickup caused a big change. But I think Donaldson, maybe someone will pick him up thinking he could be a pinch hitter, but he offers nothing, and
it seems like nobody wants him in the locker room either.
I know when he's that talented a player, and the back of his baseball card is that cluttered with teams. He's at a different team every year. That means you're either really valuable because everyone wants you, or people are like, yuck, get this guy off the team.
Right.
And and I'll tell you something. There's no one's ready to put his monument out in Monument Park in New York at this point. Well, hold on, we're going to talk one last thing before we wrap this show up here. He's Jon Frisch. You and your brother, the Halo brothers. It's the Halo brothers.
Super
Halos. Well, I got news for you. You're the Halo brothers.
we're the angry Halo brothers.
Yeah, the super mad Halo brothers.
Yes, exactly.
By the way,
the
interesting thing I wanted to have you on, like that. What this is, this news of the Angels has masked the fact that Seattle's lost to Oakland, and Texas won, and the Astros beat up the Red Sox. There's a virtual 3-way tie.
Wow.
In first place. Seattle and Texas have identical records. Houston has one more win and one more loss. Houston's played 2 more games than Seattle and Texas. But here we are. It's the 30th day of August. So the worst case scenario is what? 1 or 2 games are going to separate 3 teams as we enter September. And there is a possibility that we could go into September where Seattle, Texas, and Houston go into September going like, and they're off. Which
must be nice, Sully.
I was about to say, if you had said that there's a 3-way tie in the American League West and it does not involve the Los Angeles Angels, that's just rough. That's rough stuff.
It's par for the course, man.
We have to give a shout out to the player of the game, which is the player of the day, which is Alex Cobb.
Yeah.
My late father's favorite team, and my mom now follows them all the time. The San Francisco Giants, wearing those awful orange uniforms. And Cobb got to 8 2/3 no-hit innings.
Oh.
And then let up the double, or actually was a triple into the gap, and that broke up the shutout, broke up the no-hitter. But it doesn't take away from that. Cobb was just fantastic. He only walked 1 batter.
Yeah.
And complete game for the Giants. The ball. I mean, I don't think the Giants even warmed anyone up. And the Giants are still, they're right as of right now. With Arizona's loss, Arizona got whumped by Los Angeles. So the Giants are now a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing I got to ask you. Because the Giants won and the Diamondbacks lost, that means the Diamondbacks have a better slot to pick a player.
Right.
So if they get Giolito instead of the San Francisco Giants, there you go.
I joked on our show with Mike. I said, if the Rockies really want to screw with the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks, can they just claim like a Matt Moore before the waiver claim?
Can you imagine? Well, that's why the Padres, who right now are 7.5 games out of the final wild card spot, with 5 weeks to play. I'm
Mhm.
go out on a limb here and say they're probably not going to make it. But
Sure.
if they're still delusional enough to say we want Giolito, like you're not making up 7.5 games
Yeah.
in a month and a day.
Yeah. Well, and baseball's insane, man, because you look at where I know that the Mariners had a hot July, but like look at the difference 5 weeks makes. They were like 10 games out of a playoff spot like 5 weeks ago. Then they catch fire, and here they are
Yeah,
running with the Rangers and the Astros. It's
right.
insane.
It is insane. It is insane. By the way, um, I think you're going to just see tomorrow. We're going to get answers to all this because some of these players are not going to make it through waivers.
Yeah.
Donaldson will. Carrasco might, because he's been that bad. But I still think any team is like, look we need, give us 3 decent starts. Can you give us
Right.
3 decent starts? And even some pitchers who look totally done, like Luis Severino, looked like he was completely done, and he's had 2 pretty terrific starts in a row. And you also sometimes, as Elton John sang in the song, "Get Back, Honky Cat." Sometimes a change will do you good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look up and say, "Hey, I've had a rotten season, but if I have a final good month, I could play in October." Which brings us to our trivia question.
All right. I'm
Our
ready.
trivia question is, what player in the 2010s, I'm not going back
Okay, it's
to
recent.
Mordecai Three Finger Brown, in the 2010s, what player was claimed off of waivers, no trade, just claimed off waivers in the last few days of August and went on to win the NLCS Most Valuable Player and help
Hmm.
lead his brand new team to a World Series title? That is the trivia question. What player in the 2010s was claimed in late August? Did I
Hmm.
say October? Late August. Last week of August was
Yeah.
claimed, went to the new team, won the NLCS MVP, and helped clinch a World Series title. Send me that answer via YouTube or at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, or Instagram, or at Sully Baseball on Twitter and on Instagram. Hey, and I'm imagining that tomorrow's Locked On Angels is going to be on fire.
Oh, it's a good one. You're not going to want to miss it.
Well, look at, hey, thanks for doing a Locked On MLB, Locked On Angels crossover here. John,
Yeah.
tell people where they can listen to your wonderful show.
Hey, follow us at Locked On Angels on Twitter, and you can catch our show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. If you hop over to YouTube, get in the comments on the video because we love hearing from you guys, and we do our best to respond to every single comment. So hop on over there and get in on the conversation. You can get at us on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros as well. So we'd love to see you there.
All right. Well, talking about the fallen angels
Oh, boy.
and seeing Jon Frisch desperately seeing if that glass is, well, maybe it's an eighth full. This has been a Locked On MLB. Sorry, buddy. I don't mean to get on you there. This has been a Locked On MLB, Locked On Angels podcast. He's Jon Frisch. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.